This show is sponsored by Dr. Len Bergantino. You're listening to The Courage to Be, Developing a Higher Consciousness with Dr. Len Bergantino, who is in private practice of clinical psychology in Beverly Hills. People are urged to call in with their problems. However, you will not be given advice as other talk show psychologists and psychiatrists do. You'll be worked with in a way that has the possibility of developing skills in you that will enhance your capacity to think and to function in the emotional line of fire and to live courageously. Dr. Bergantino also encourages calls regarding fathers' rights and the women who help them. Dr. Bergantino is a diplomat of the American Board of Family Psychology and is particularly knowledgeable about severe parental alienation syndrome. He testifies in court as an expert witness for fathers who are told by ex-spouses the child doesn't want to talk to you or the child doesn't want to visit you, even when there is no significant event to explain these feelings. The healthy parent encourages visitation even when the child is not in the mood. Dr. Bergantino's book, Psychotherapy, Insight and Style, The Existential Moment, will help the listener go through the different stages of growth through identifying with the stages of Dr. Bergantino's development in his work with 17 world-famous therapists. It will give the listener a much deeper perspective from which to listen to and to profit by this show. The book can be purchased by calling Jason Aronson Publishers at 1-800-782-0015. Again, that number is 1-800-782-0015. For those of you who wish to contact Dr. Bergantino, you may call him at 213-207-9397. That's area code 213-207-9397.
This is Dr. Len Bergantino. I keep experimenting with the format of this show. It's an evolving life process. And perhaps this evening we ought to divide the show into a first segment called Psychoanalysis Live and a second part of the show called Fathers' Rights and the Women Who Help Them. I'm interested in social change and social function and change in both of these areas. And I need your help. You, the people who listen. It's a call-in show. The call-in numbers in Los Angeles are 628-KIEV, West LA 837-KIEV, San Fernando Valley 989-KIEV, Glendale Burbank 956-KIEV, San Gabriel Valley 443-KIEV, South Bay 835-KIEV, outside 213, it's 1-800-540-KIEV. I have serious concerns about both areas that I mentioned, but let's take psychoanalysis, the first half of the show. What I want to do in this show, where many psychotherapy shows, live shows, people call in and they get advice and kind of a quick fix-it, so to speak. I don't want to do that. I want people to call in and I will work with you in an in-depth way as if it were a psychoanalytic session in which you showed up on any particular day of many days in which you'd come, 5 days a week for many years. Now, why would anyone do that? Well, the minimum conditions for change at the most profound levels is a very difficult, arduous, long process. But I'm not doing this show because I want you to come into my private practice, because in effect I don't. I'm interested in educating the public in the way I think analysis ought to be practiced, because I think the institutions that control the analytic situation leave out some basic things that need to be in there if the public is to have a sporting chance at well-being. Working with Milton Erickson over a 3-year period, I developed a very fine-tuned sensory perception. I learned some very unusual things doing analysis over 11 years, seeing people 5 days a week for 7 years at a time. Almost as a research psychoanalyst would do, only I happen to have a very unusual sensory perception at the same time. I learned that the first cause in psychophysiological disorders, so to speak, or let's say the psychological ramification of how physical disease begins, is hardly ever gotten to by physicians. That primarily what's treated is a symptom after the psychological aspect of it has already created the disease process. And you get treated for the disease, but never the first cause, or hardly ever. Which is not too healthy a state of affairs. Now, Bruno Bettelheim once told me that Freud's most gifted training analyst was Wilhelm Reich. Reich wrote this: "The most important tool is sensation, be it inner organ sensation or outer sensory perception. Considered functionally, sensation is a feeling out of reality. The functionalist will always order his intellectual activity so that it is in harmony with his sensations. Where the degree of emotional irrationalism is small, and it must be small for anyone who investigates nature, he listens to the gentle warnings of his sensations that tell him whether his thinking is right or wrong, clear or muddled by personal interest, whether he follows his irrational inclinations or any objective processes. It has to do with keeping our sensory apparatus, the tool of our research, in good condition. This condition is not a gift, not a special talent, but a continuous effort, a continuous exercise in self-criticism and self-control. Without an invariably clear system of sensation, without the ability to clear it if it becomes irrationally distorted, we would not be able to take one step into the depth of human character structure, or describe natural processes as they are. They, the mechanistic technologists, do not know their sensory apparatus. They can control their actions only by experiment, and we know that experiment without organ sensation has taken mechanistic natural science nowhere in crucial questions of nature. The life function is the tool with which we touch, probe, order, and comprehend ourselves and the nature around us. Basically, Reich was saying that the sensations which the analyst picks up helps that analyst in his work with a particular patient. Now, the problem in the training of analysts is that their sensory apparatus, which has been destroyed to one degree or another, like most people's, after they're 9 months old, has not necessarily been restored in the training. This leaves, again, this is Dr. Len Bergantino. The first half of this show is Psychoanalysis Live, and again, it's a call-in show. If you call in with problems, I will work with you in an analytic way, which is different than the talk show therapies you've heard before. And if you like what's going on in this show, what I really want to do is basically have two basic movements. One is a father's right movement. One is a movement for the general public to really take a look at how analysis is practiced. Careful scrutiny, and make as many commentaries to the American psychoanalytic, your training analyst, people who analyze you, as possible along the lines that I may evoke your thinking to include. To do this, I need a lot of airtime. 12 to 1 on a Saturday night, well, that's a start. But basically, one person who's made an impact on the airwaves is David Viscott. But David Viscott's on 1 to 3, 5 days a week. Now, David Viscott has an organization where he's interested in treating people that come from exposure to this show. I'm not interested in doing that. I'm interested in this show creating a freedom, a life force, and a spirit that touches people's lives in two particular areas: Psychoanalysis Live and fathers' rights and the women who support them. If you're interested in those kind of actions, I would appreciate contributions to come to either one of those organizations, Psychoanalysis Live or Fathers' Rights and the women who help them. And you could send any such contributions to Dr. Len Bergantino, 1215 Brockton Avenue, Suite 104, Los Angeles, California, 90025. And again, if you wish to work on the air, call in. I will demonstrate the kind of things I am speaking to you about. I realize they're somewhat complex and somewhat sophisticated, but I think it's worth the trouble to expand your level of attention, because the result of not doing so is we have relationships on a major scale that are destroyed, that don't work out, massive divorce rates, brutal child custody battles. We basically have a system that doesn't work. Once Humpty Dumpty fell off the wall, nobody knew how to put him back together again. I'm not saying I have the answer on how to put it back together again, but I have a very subtle method of teaching people how to work toward that goal. Dr. Bergantino, you're on the air. Hello? We seem to have a technical difficulty here for a moment. So, Mister? Yes, there was a call came in and a technical problem, and apparently we lost the call. But hope you'll call back, and look forward to working with you. The technical difficulty, I suppose, if we Oh, here's a call again. Dr. Bergantino.
Hi, and enjoying your show.
Thank you.
I have a problem. Perhaps you can help me with it. If I told you about it, probably doesn't really seem like a problem. I lack motivation. I want to sell my home and move, but I just can't. I'm so laxed and don't have the will just to complete the painting and prepare it for sale.
Are you married, single?
I'm married.
Kids?
No.
Your wife live with you?
Yes, I've been married for about 16 years. And
I have an intuitive hunch
okay.
that this house provides some kind of nurturance for you.
Well, it's kind of a sanctuary because it's completely private. I only have one neighbor, and I have walls around it. One is my neighbor's. It's rather a tall wall, and it's a long wall, and then the other perimeters are closed off in the same manner, so to speak. So it's very private and it's very quiet. It's at the end of a cul-de-sac.
See, what I wonder is if your perimeters may be closed off in terms of nurturance coming into you in a way where your level of emotional satisfaction might be such that the keeping of this house wouldn't be as crucial as it apparently is at the unconscious level.
Yeah, I think you're right there. I just can't. I mean, it's a relatively simple problem. I do have a lot of work to do here, but if I put in the time...
See, it seems like a relatively simple problem, but if you look at the unconscious ramifications, that it provides a good deal of substance and nurturance that doesn't come in otherwise, then it's a rather complex problem.
That's true. It's like I'm holding myself back on my worst enemy, and all it requires is... maybe 2 months of regimentation and just putting in the long hours, and yet it's a many-folded problem. I've been working with my hands for a great deal of my career.
What I'm sensing now as you speak is a sense of drudgery. And
That's right. It's for example, the last business I've had was a body shop business, and I've been around sanding and painting, and I'm so tired of that. I mean, it seems like almost a fruitless thing. Not fruitless, but just a waste of energy. And although it would be more expedient if I got to the chores and completed them, and it would be over, and I can get on with my life. But
I get this sense of your life kind of flowing down the toilet somehow.
In a sense, yes, because I'm getting on in age, and I haven't really found a satisfactory career, and it's always been something that never really satisfied my creative idea of life and fulfillment. And so this sanding the walls of the rooms in the house. I have a lot of wood in the house. I'm just tired of using the jitterbug. It's given me maybe a type of arthritis.
So the problem seems to be how to find the kid-like quality in you of what you want, and what makes you feel like a kid in a candy store?
In what respect? Like a kid in...
Well, in the respect of living the rest of your life, I suppose. It sounds like it's all drudgery, or a good deal of it, which there's no escape from. And the way to...
Well, to give you an example,
the balance point would be, what was the little kid in you like at 6 or 7?
The little kid was experimenting in my father's workshop, and basically being intrigued with music and playing my own type of piano. And I was a dyslexic, and I began to read at a fairly decent level at age 21. So education has passed me by. And
how old are you?
I'm 52 now. I mean, I feel young. I look younger than my years. I have a lot of energy, but I don't have the motivation. It's like a fruitless attempt, and I kind of feel that I missed the boat, but yet I still would like to study music in a very proper way, because I felt after all these years it's the thing that really I enjoy the most and inspires me the most, and it's something that I haven't touched at all enough. Other than when in school I had a jazz group and I played up until I was about 30, and then that was the end of it, because my family didn't promote it. They thought it was a very dangerous career to pursue, which is true unless you have an unusual amount of talent and things go well for you, or you're highly motivated.
Are you financially stable at this time? Or?
In a sense, I am. I mean...
so it's not really as dangerous as it might have been?
No.
Or it's not as dangerous as the drudgery at this point?
That's true. But everything... if you don't
I have a couple of stories for you.
Yeah, sure.
One is, I have a physician friend who's... retired from medicine about the age of 74, went to Cal State Northridge, got a master's in musicology, and finished Bach's Unfinished Fugue, and wrote a thesis on it, which is now getting published in book form.
That's marvelous.
And then there was another woman I saw years ago. She was 56 years old, and I had my own blinders on at the time, I suppose, and she said she was going to go to law school. And I says, well, geez, you'll be 59 when you get out. And she says, I'll be 59 anyways.
Yeah. I see what you mean. It's never too late. It really isn't too late, especially, well, I have a lot of equity here. I mean, I don't have to really worry about if I manage my money properly and make the right investments. I can stick myself in school again, which I would like to do. So that's kind of one thing that I'm really looking forward to. But I have to finish this house. I mean, I started on it 3 years ago, getting it into order, but I haven't done that much. I mean, I have 1,001 projects in the making, and nothing comes to fruition. I have all the stuccoing completed, but there's a small area around new windows that I put in. I haven't finished that. My tile floor in the kitchen hasn't been grouted, etc. And I can go on, and because I haven't got the motivation.
What do you think you'd rather do, finish the house or study music?
I almost think that I should just do a reasonable job and put it up for sale, and not try to squeeze every penny and just go on with my life, and that would be more important than just trying to get the most out of this house, which represents a great deal of security to me also. So. It's maddening because I just can't get enough work done. I just don't get enough work done here.
See, what if you were to say to yourself, though, it's maddening, I just don't get enough play done. I just don't get enough play done.
Well, I mean, as far as playing and studying the piano, for example, is that what you're referring to?
Well, that's one of the ways you define play.
Well, I don't think that's play. I mean, I take it very seriously, and
well,
I don't.
That's only a two sides of the same coin. You can take it seriously, and it can be play also. That's
true. That's true. I feel if it's a love, it's not a chore. It's something that it's almost a need that you approach in a very happy, willing frame of mind.
I suppose the problem would be how to contain two half-truths at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Without saturating the space
I think you're right on that.
You see what I mean, though? Even though you think I'm right, there's a closing of the space with you that kind of destroys the life force somewhat.
Mm-hmm.
Which is, I think, your bottom line complaint, similar to what I read Reich spoke about, that life force is our most important ingredient. So the problem seems to be how to relate to you in a way that keeps that space open.
Mm-hmm.
Would that be okay for now, you think?
Well, and it gives me a lot of food for thought, and I really believed you touched on something that is one of the keys to the problem.
Thank you for calling in. I hope you'll call in again.
I sure will, and thank you for the advice. I appreciate it very much.
My pleasure.
Right. Good night.
Good night. Dr. Bergantino.
Yes, Dr. Len, are you a poser?
I think you have the wrong station. Again, this part of the show is Psychoanalysis Live, and we had a very intelligent person call in, worked at a heartfelt level about issues that concerned him, and you saw some of the ways that I approached him, not necessarily to solve his problem, but to give him the tools upon which he could continue to work, to keep the space open, to work with the life force, to think about things in a way that would enhance living and relieve drudgery. Again, this is Dr. Len Bergantino. The first half of the show is Psychoanalysis Live, and I'm very appreciative that man called in. I didn't ask his name, oversight, but the call-in numbers are 628-KIEV, Los Angeles, West LA 837-KIEV, San Fernando Valley 989-KIEV, Glendale Burbank 956-KIEV. If you like the two themes of these shows, I mean, I actually have two halves. Psychoanalysis Live is the first half, and the second half is Father's Rights and the Women Who Helped Them. I would like to do this in a way where I can make as much revolutionary impact as possible, both in the court system as a whole and in the training of psychoanalysts, which I think the greatest impact can be made with public response. So if you are interested in that, I would appreciate any contributions you might want to make that would help me have more airtime. Any such contributions you might send to Dr. Len Bergantino, 1215 Brockton Avenue, number 10, Suite 104, Los Angeles, California 90025. And depending on which part of the show you're interested in, you could make it out to me, care of either Psychoanalysis Live or care of the part Father's Rights. Dr. Bergantino speaking.
Good morning, Dr. Bergantino.
Good morning.
You said that you forgot to ask that last man's name, so I'll tell you that my name is Kevin and save you the embarrassment.
Thank you. Well,
are you there?
Yes.
Oh, to follow his heart's desire. And
what is it you would like?
What is it I would like? I would like to see more people do what he wants to do. That is, study music. I know from personal experience that you're never too old to study. He's 62. He can go to school, or he can get a competent private teacher and learn to play well and expand.
What is it you would like for yourself by calling me?
I don't know. I'm reasonably happy the way I am. What I like for myself is to see others happy. It's a great gift that I have, isn't it?
Well, I don't know you well enough to comment.
Oh. Well, I have nothing else to say except I think it was wonderful of you to encourage him. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks for calling. Dr. Len Bergantino, we're at the halfway point of the show. And the second half of the show, and again, this is a call-in show, is call-in numbers are Los Angeles 628 KIEV, West LA 837 KIEV, San Fernando. And this part of the show is regarding fathers' rights and the women who help them. One of the phenomena involved in a massive scale throughout our society is called severe parental alienation syndrome. This phenomena is when you hear an ex-spouse, 90% of the cases, usually ex-wives, bottom line is when a woman feels rejected at the most basic levels, there's a kind of viciousness that gets taken out through the kids, scapegoated onto fathers. You have a court system that's rather naive to this phenomena. Key ways to recognize this: the child doesn't want to talk to you, or the child doesn't want to visit you, even when there is no significant event to explain these feelings. If you got a healthy parent, they encourage visitation. And as Dr. Richard Gardner, in his book about severe parental alienation syndrome, writes, quote, even when the child is not in the mood. Now, there's one female judge in the Los Angeles Superior Court, 111 Hill Street, downtown, who misses 3 out of 4 such cases. I've watched her work considerably. This causes unfair, lifelong hardship to fathers who are the victim of such unfairness. Now, there's some of you people who believe that the court system works, that it's fair to the citizenry of our state of California, or even our nation. And what I suggest is that skeptics sit in on several judges down at 111 Hill Street or in the family court sections and see for yourself what goes on. Fathers get shortchanged. Now, I'm not saying this as a chauvinist. I'm saying it because there's an imbalance, and when there's an imbalance in society, it's like a festering wound that never heals. If you get judges who consistently make decisions where fathers are victimized, shortchanged, abused, basically put into a situation where to have anything but lifetime resentment and animosity would be quite unlikely. Let me explain some of the things about this kind of a system. Of course, the Department of Children's Services is one of the prime offenders in terms of doing what they say is in the best interest or welfare of children, while in fact what they do, for the most part, is crush the life force out of children, support the parent who has the least life force or the least sense of nurturance, create situations that have lifelong disastrous results, all in the name of protecting children. Jay Haley, one of the premier supervisors of family therapists, says that the basic pathology in all families who have significant pathology is the protection game. In this protection game is supposedly the protection of the feelings of the child, the protection of the child from forthrightness, the protection of the child from honest responses. In other words, they recommend or do things that kills life force instead of enhances it. Painting images of parents that are monstrous. Usually having very little to do with the people themselves, but more of a projection of the monsters doing the evaluating. Judges, expert witnesses, DCS workers. Usually when complaints are filed against fathers from a DCS situation, you don't have the father contacted, or you have a father who's contacted and advised by attorneys not to speak to who's ever making the allegation. The allegations are really never checked out. Just charges are filed. Once that happens, you're into, mucho dollars in defense of such situations. Thousands, 20, 40, 60, 100,000, 200, 400, ad infinitum. You have perhaps a discrepancy between who actually files the initial report against a father for alleged child abuse or whatever, and a DCS worker whose job it is to exaggerate in paranoid fashion claims against fathers. The actual facts of a situation are hardly ever represented accurately. The facts are presented in such an exaggerated way that a father has 9 strikes against him before he ever goes in. I mean, even if you had somebody like Melvin Belli or F. Lee Bailey, the defense never rests, they would still have quite a hole to dig themselves out of just from the way the allegations are written. Again, never checking out with the accused party the authenticity of such charges. And then you have attorneys who work for a dependency court system whose job it is to massacre the accused regardless of the facts in the case, to present the most malevolent mental picture to that judge that they possibly can, which is distorting and painting a legal picture, inauthentic in many, many cases, both in fact, in life force, in quality of being, and destructive to the children themselves. Then you have expert witnesses. Now, most psychotherapists, before I became familiar with this expert witness situation, most psychotherapists, regardless of their level of competence or courage, for the most part seem to speak like people. They speak in a way that to some degree or other reaches a human capacity. Expert witnesses are a whole different species. Here you have people who have positions, not humans, but they're more like hockey pucks or hockey players who have positions. My position is, as opposed to the thinking and feeling based on the evidence presented. Let's take one such hockey puck. Of course, on a show like this, we can't really mention any names, but let's say this hockey puck resides in the Pasadena area, and as expert witnesses go, he's a well-considered hockey puck. Now, hockey pucks hardly ever accept the authentic commentary of children. For example, I'm looking at such a report here of this particular expert as he writes about children, and he says both minors, blank and blank blank, profess a positive relationship with their father. Now notice the word profess. In other words, the implication is that if the kids say they have a positive relationship with their father, it isn't really a fact. It's just something that they profess. And then he says, in this regard, they both profess an enjoyment in their ongoing visits with their father. Now, in this particular case, you have a father who responded to an abominable court system, archaic to its very core. I mean, you have attorneys like Jerry Spence, who defended in the Marcos case, top attorney in the country, writes a book about our system called Justice for None. It's frightening. If you read JFK's daughter, believe it or not, is all grown up, Carolyn Kennedy, and she wrote a book about the Bill of Rights. She's a lawyer now, Stanford University, law school. It's kind of fitting for JFK's daughter to have written a book about the Bill of Rights. I was very touched and moved when I saw that and read it. And she basically said that the people of the United States are so out of touch with the Bill of Rights, they don't even know what it is anymore, and they hardly know that their protection under the Bill of Rights is being usurped by the legal system and the powers to be in a way that continues to limit our protection under the Bill of Rights as citizens of this country. Now, both Carolyn Kennedy and Spence point out that there are a few outstanding judges who take on this system, but not many. The idea of justice, or Justinian, is for people to get their just due. And yet the way the system basically functions is based on power, not on service, life force, and humanity. Really should watch, go down and watch the way the judges work. They represent you. Take a look at it. You have power to respond to this. The particular case study I was reading, here you got two kids. Evidence is they enjoy their father, and they say they have a positive relationship with him. And then this report goes on to describe the way a father in pro per had to deal with a closed-minded judge and an ex-wife who terrorizes both children, one of which is even afraid to come to the telephone for fear of the hatred of mother, and the other who's brainwashed to the extent he just parrots his mother's conversations. Primitive mental state. Saying all sorts of unbelievably negative things about his father when in the presence of the mother without any intervening event. In other words, one of the phenomena of severe parental alienation syndrome is there's unexplainably negative behavior or commentary toward a father without any event that would warrant such abuse on the part of the children. Now, with the evidence, the bottom line that these kids love their father, it's a positive relationship, they enjoy him, and in fact, this particular father, who represented himself, wanted to have his daughter testify in court, which was the reason the Department of Children's Services sought out this PhD hockey puck expert, and of course, rather than have the daughter say what the truth of the matter is, which would have totally blown the Department of Children's Services case in a situation where you had an emotionally abusive mother who terrorized kids, you have this expert witness say, in the face of the kids' statements of what they, quote, profess, I would strongly recommend that da-da-da-da not be allowed to even speak with his children on the telephone. These, I think on the show about 3-4 weeks ago, there was a social workers report. Well, we have a phone here. Dr. Bergantino.
Hi, Doctor. How are you?
Pretty good.
This is Marty.
Hello, Marty.
I've been giving a lot of thought to
Pardon me?
children.
Yes.
You're primarily involved with children, and for the last 4 months, I've been giving a lot of thought to children. Have you ever heard of AA?
Yes, I have.
Alcohol Anonymous?
Yes, I have.
What about NA?
No, I haven't.
Narcotics Anonymous?
Well, now that you mention it, I know what you mean.
Okay, I think what we need is a CA, a Children Anonymous. And the person that would start it would be, it would just have to be someone like yourself or something, or would get an idea going. In other words, a place as to where children can be anonymous, and they can group and have their own things, what they're going through together. Because the division of the household is always going to be hard on the children.
You know, you got a good idea.
Secondly,
One of the problems is in the severity of the kind of situations I'm talking about. The severe parental alienation syndrome parent usually has so much terrifying control, along with Department of Children's Services, that there's really no way to spring them free to do anything that might help that life force in them.
handled through maybe you're a psychiatrist or a psychologist?
Clinical psychologist.
Okay. The other question that I have severely to ask is I feel that we should bomb Saddam. And knowing a mind power, what he has, right? My feelings is that he feels that he is invulnerable.
Well, one of the issues on the show deals with analysis, and the other deals with the legal system. But you're bringing up a political issue. Now, I suppose the only thing I could do with that is to analyze you about it.
Yeah.
So, what makes you think that?
Well, he hasn't learned from this last bout.
But what makes you think you know the right course of action, that you would have enough facts at hand? I mean, one might assume that it's such a complex matter. You have all the way from the president to the military commissions to international higher-ups in all countries thinking about the matter and the facts on a continual basis.
The fact of the matter is,
and I wonder how many facts we really have to know much of anything about it.
well, he was building a big gun and also refining nuclear materials for weaponry. Also on the TV, I see that he still has these fanatics, and they have already been fighting as soon as the American forces pull out. See, we do not have to fight a regular kind of war like that. These women want to do something, just put them in a plane and let them go over there and bomb them.
You know, one of the things I saw was a picture of these kids on, I forget whether it was Time magazine or People magazine, but little kids who lived in that country with their faces all kind of blown apart by these bombs. They're like permanently scarred for life, out with no place to eat, no houses, no roof, starving to death, cold, freezing in the winter. I mean, it was horrifying.
That's what Saddam drove them up into the mountains.
So it's
So then when Kurds came
but with all the bombing,
the bombing
he seemed to escape, and the kids appeared on the picture of Time and People magazine. So it would make one wonder whether it was about such a course of action. Of course, I'm too uninformed to know one way or the other, but it would certainly make one think about it. I mean, so I guess the thing that strikes me about what you say is you sound so definite about it. When there's so many variables involved, that I would think anyone with a sense of morality and higher conscience would really wonder about, it kills babies, it kills kids, it damages...
You see, the earth will revolt.
I got one more call I'm going to take because we're almost out of time.
Now we're going to be real quick on this. But the earth could revolt on that. Basically, what I was calling about also a little bit of psychology on these police, but I think we should start a CA, Children Anonymous. That's a place where children could
Well, I think that's a pretty good idea.
And maybe you could carry the ball somewhere. I'm going to make some more suggestions along that line. As to where children can get together, where they come from broken homes or whatever, and they can express to each other some of the problems that they go through. And you can't say that men are all broken home is bad for a child.
I appreciate your thoughts and your sentiments and your calling in. I got one more call I'm going to take. I only got 5 minutes left.
All right.
Thanks for calling. Dr. Bergantino.
Hi, Dr. Bergantino. This is Doris in Westlake.
Hi, Doris.
How are you this evening?
Pretty good. How about yourself?
I'm fine, and I certainly hope that we have a lot of fathers out there that are listening to the show, because we need a lot of support behind us to get this movement going. You know, every infant is born with the potential for psychological health, but you know that potential only flourishes. I mean, it depends on the psychological climate that is lived in and the self-esteem that the child has. And I cannot overemphasize the importance of self-esteem in a child's life, because I feel that self-esteem is the mainstream.
You know, I think you got a great idea here that, like, if we're going to get a movement going, I need a lot of people to pitch in.
We do, because there has to be a lot of fathers out there that have children, and a lot of grandmas like me. And I think that I started to say self-esteem for children, you know, that's the mainspring that slates every child for success or failure as a human being. And where are they going to get the self-esteem if not from all parts of the family? They have to be involved with their father.
Your grandkids get to see you?
I haven't seen them. Well, I saw them last week for a few moments. But I'm going to get to see them. I'll go see them if I have to hire.
So, you know, for people who didn't hear you on other shows, I mean, your political situation is that your husband's, your son's ex-wife has created such a situation you hardly see your grandkids.
That's right. And
so that's pretty awful situation.
Yes, it is. And so I want everyone listening out there to know that this is a very big part of all our lives. And these are all the children that will grow up to shape, you know, the world.
Doris, I'm getting the sign here. I got to cut it.
Okay, darling.
Thanks for calling in.
I'll talk to you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Anybody who wants to contribute to these two causes, you can do so by sending a check to Dr. Len Bergantino, either for Psychotherapy Live or Father's Rights, at 1215 Brockton Avenue, Los Angeles, California, 90025. And we'll talk to you next week.
This show is sponsored by Dr. Len Bergantino. You're listening to The Courage to Be, Developing a Higher Consciousness, with Dr. Len Bergantino, who is in private practice of clinical psychology in Beverly Hills. People are urged to call in with their problems. However, you will not be given advice as other talk show psychologists and psychiatrists do. You'll be worked with in a way that has the possibility of developing skills in you that will enhance your capacity to think and to function in the emotional line of fire and to live courageously. Dr. Bergantino also encourages calls regarding fathers' rights and the women who help them. Dr. Bergantino is a diplomat of the American Board of Family Psychology. He is particularly knowledgeable about severe parental alienation syndrome. He testifies in court as an expert witness for fathers who are told by ex-spouses the child doesn't want to talk to you, or the child doesn't want to visit you, even when there is no significant event to explain these feelings. The healthy parent encourages visitation even when the child is not in the mood. Dr. Bergantino's book, Psychotherapy, Insight and Style, The Existential Moment, will help the listener go through the different stages of growth through identifying with the stages of Dr. Bergantino's development in his work with 17 world-famous therapists. It will give the listener a much deeper perspective from which to listen to and to profit by this show. The book can be purchased by calling Jason Aronson Publishers at 1-800-782-0015. Again, that number is 1-800-782-0015. For those of you who wish to contact Dr. Bergantino, you may call him at 213-207-9397. That's area code 213-207-9397.